Okay, so we're as Hashem starting today on Amud Lamed Tes, paragraph that begins with Eiji Shleimar. Let's remember where we're at. So the hagaha is explaining how Chochmah Vatzilus is a Bria Shma'ayin, and obviously we're talking about the Kli of Chochmah Vatzilus, because we're talking in Shittas Orakanti. The Kli of Chochmah Vatzilus is a Bria Shma'ayin. And we explain the difference between a Bria Shma'ayin and the Inyan of Ila Va'olu, Ishtalshlus Ila Va'olu. In the Ishtalshlus Ila Va'olu, there's an erech between the Ila and the Olu. And this knows from an erech, the Ila is Behelim in the Olu is Behelim in the Ila. And this knows the Olu Behelim in the Ila. The Ila is Mechayeves as Olu. It's the Ila Gufa, which is Mechayeves, is Mechayeves as Olu. When it comes to B'riyah Shma'ayin, the Yesh is Hepech Inyan Ha'ayin, and if ne B'riyas HaYesh, Ein Metzias HaYesh Nimtza B'Ha'ayin, Klal Uklal. And it's no Mitzad Aliyas HaRotzein, that there is this Avos HaYesh, and that Avos is B'derech the Mela, and not b'derech islapshus. Hagaha Talia, as we explained. Then we said in the bracket, going back to Amud Lamed Ches, this does not contradict what we said in the previous Hagaha, that the Kli of Chochmah is betachlis habitul v'akirav la'erin seif. We're saying it's bein aroich, and it's a yesh lagabi and ayin. We explained in the previous hagaha that the kelim of atzilus are betachlis habitul. So how's that shaykh? So we gave one explanation. One explanation was that in this avos hayesh, the kavonas ha'ayin is that the yesh will be bottled ayin. Al derech, the inyan of a melech, kol kavanosei, is there should be avodim nifrodim, but not there should be avodim nifrodim which are meirud b'malchus, but avodim nifrodim which is bottle al melech. That's the whole kavan. So the mela, this sort of hisnasus, this makif that comes from the ayin, is poil in a beyoisa in the yesh which is korav el ayin, the yesh harishon. So in the marshal we gave in the Einam Abriya, Legabi Malchus Datzilus, and then we said Alachas Kama V'Kama L'Mayla in Chochmah Datzilus, Legabi L'Mayla Me'atzilus. Yeah? That was what we did yesterday. That's what we did yesterday. Now we're going to do V'Oijei Shlema. So the bracket hasn't, this is all within a bracket. The bracket that began on Amud Lamed Ches Ve'ein Zeh Seisa is now continuous. He gave one Yesh Lema, what we just said. And now we're going to do V'Oijei Shleima, B'Oimak Yesa. We're going to have a Tifra Pshat. Tifra Pshat Favos, Chochmah Da'atzilus, the Kli of Chochmah Da'atzilus, has a bittul which is merkentic. It's more felt, a greater degree of bittul in the Kli of Malchus, in Kli of Chochmah Da'atzilus, than it is in the rest of Nivroim. You would think B'riyah Shma'ayin is the pshat that everything's bein arich. Yosem is she'ein arich. Asiyah lagabi Atzilus, ein arich Atzilus lagabi l'mayla Atzilus. So you'd think if things ein arich, it's ein arich. Everything's in the same boat. You don't get any closer. When you're talking about Gvul and Bli Gvul, you're talking about Yesh and Ayin, these things are of a different order. Umemela, everything should be the same. How can you at the same time say this is a B'riyah Shma'ayin? You're trying to emphasize the fact that it's Be'ein Aroich to its Moked HaMahave. It's not like Ishtalshus Ilva which has a Shaykhis, it's Be'ein Aroich. At the same time, you want to say that it has a greater degree of bittul. That the Chochmah, the Kli Chochmah of Atzilus has a greater degree of bittul than Bina, the Kli Bina, and weiter. And alachas kama v'kama legabi the madrigas hanamuchis bri yitzirasi. So one of shach, either it's bein arich or it's be'erich. So if it's be'erich, the thing that's closer has a greater erich. So it's the ein zeh soisa. So we gave one pshat why it's not soisa, and that was what we did yesterday. And now we're going to give another biur, which is be'emek yesa. You ready? Be'oidish lema be'emek yesa inyan abitla api mashakos b'dursh v'kocha reish lamed zayin seif perek ein beis be'inyan krivus elam abriya ela ein. So we're going to bring from the hemshach v'kocha, and there in chapter 72 it talks about, again, not about kelim of atzilus, we're talking about the relationship of elam abriya to the ayin of malchus atzilus. What is the ayin of the yesh of bria? Is malchus atzilus? Yeah. So that we're gonna quote from there, and then we're gonna go from there, and we're gonna derive what we're trying to explain here. So it says v'zel l'sheini. This is what it says in the Mekacha. V'agam ki l'cheda zeh u'dov noisav al atzmius b'chinas ha'ayin. L'cheda, the metzias hayesh, is a dov noisav on the inyan of the ayin. The yesh b'ayin. It undermines the dveikus of the ayin that is producing this yesh. On the be'emesh yesh l'chalik klal. The truth is, there's no change in the ayin. Nothing. You don't distinguish between the ayin shlifnei briyas hayesh and the ayin shlachar briyas hayesh. Why? Shai bilti b'chinas ha'ayin yesh klal b'chinas hayesh. What's the pshat the yesh? The yesh is not something other than the ayin, because if it wouldn't be for the ayin, there wouldn't be a yesh. Liyos b'chinas metzias klal. For this yesh to be metzias klal, without the ayin, it wouldn't be a metzias. B'im can call in metzias hayesh hu ha'ayin ha'makay meisei ad kol nashim. That's what it says in the Bekacha. Were it not for the ayin, there would not be yesh. There won't be any yesh, because the yesh is chidush. There's no. All you have is ayin. Mitamol is a yesh. Where's the yesh come from? It didn't exist beforehand. It's not nichel in the ayin. The ayin can survive ganz fine without the yesh. It's not machayiv mitzias hayesh like ilavalu. So where's the yesh come from? It's ad aliyas haratzim. Okay, but it's hepachtiva. It's against the nature of the ayin to make a yesh. So Kozman, the Eibishter wants the ayin to make a yesh. He has to constantly make the ayin make a yesh. Because mitzad the ayin, everything has to be bottle elikus, and not have a mitzias nifrat, not have a sense of self, not have a degree of hagdara. All those things are hepach mitzias ayin. So the Eibishter wants that the ayin should make a yesh. If the Eibishter wants that the ayin should make a yesh, he has to constantly make the ayin make a yesh. So what is mitzias a yesh? It's the ayin. Because we're not for the ayin, there'll be no yesh. So for the ayin, it's not a dov and nois of mitzias. Because kol mitzias a yesh is the ayin. Yeah? That's what it says in the Bekacha. So now, and this is basic shaykh d'emunah, yeah? Standard. This should be like your mother's milk. Well, so what's the pshat? K'mish kostu b'seif shal beinin cherik beis in shaykh d'emunah perik beis v'gimel. This avos oilam is eine kasha yotzim etzeid of kli. Sheyochel yezak kli b'li atzeid of nishi rak yesh miyesh. The whole creation of the ilamais is not like the production of something from something, like taking a sheet of metal and turning it into a goblet, into a becher. Avlis avos ilamais sheyesh me'ayin harikeich mahavish hu ha'ayin tzarich is tomid bayesh. V'im chas v'sholim yistalik menu yeh ayin ve'efes. Can call Metzias hayesh hu ha'ayin ve'efes b'lodim be'emes chulim. Okay. Classic Tanya. So kol Metzias hayesh is the ayin, and were it not for the ayin, the yesh would not cease to exist. Hastus zogen as the whole inyan of the yesh is the ayin. And now he brings a mavur b'makim acher. Kamel b'keimes. Moshel azem is rikas even. This is the standard moshel. Chassidus top of Amid Mem. Haderech moshel k'shezek nes lamato. When you throw a stone lamato, hari luchi lamata in a tolubekei chazerik. You throw a stone from or you drop a stone from the roof, or you throw the stone from the roof. The reason why the stone is falling down is not only because maybe the speed of it for going down is because of your zrika, but the fact that it's falling down is not because of the kei chazerik. Kim yelach me'atzmei. Because if you were to drop it, it would fall itself. Because it's the nature of a mass to fall downwards, gravity. Yeah? However, if you're going to throw it upwards, then everything depends on the energy that you're investing into this stone. As soon as you expend the energy that was invested in the stone, then it's going to fall back downwards. Because through throwing it, you've caused it to go against its natural state. Its natural state is to be rested, or if it's suspended in the air and left, it will descend, and you're throwing it upwards. Stones don't fly by nature. So the extent to which the koyach remains in the stone, then it's going to go upwards. I'm not going to. Let's not go into that. And as soon as your energy is expended, the stone will go back down. Because the very nature is, there's no such thing as a flying stone. Stones don't fly. B'tivam. There is a stone with a keich hazerik that goes lamayla, and that has to be constantly there. That's the whole marshal that we have in many places in Chassidus. The kozman, you have the chidush. If you're going to be mechadish something, it has to be constant.
But in the marshal, it's all because of the teva of the ever, not the teva of the thing that throws the ever. We're trying to say that it's because of the teva of the ayin, that the yesh, that it always has created the yesh. It's kind of opposite in a way, no?
No, the teva of the teva of everything is to be bottled elikos.
So saying the teva of the yesh is to be bottled, and that's why the ayin always has to be mechadashit. So does it, the ayin, mitzad the ayin, maybe also mitzad the ayin,
right?
Mitzad everything.
No, but it can mitzad the yesh. The yesh teva ha-yesh is lachzi la'ayin. To remain a yesh has to be is chadshus ayin. That is chadshus. Okay. So that's the motion. Ba'anim shum izeh b'isavas yesh me'ayin, hari isavas ha-yesh v'isavas chadosha. ולזה צריך להסביר כוח העין המחד שיתום, ואם מסתכל ממנו חס ושום נספת לכל מציאס ישוסי לגמרי, ויחסי לסיים באפס. אוקיי. ואם כן, כל זמן קיומי שהוא נמצא, fragt der Rebbe Rashab, מהו מציאוסי? Ey בזה, if the whole מציאס היש is was, the ein which is mechadish is itomid, then fragt sich der Scheile, מהו מציאוסי? In was besteht Metzias Hayesh? What is exactly the Metzias Hayesh? Hariraka ayin amaveisei. In truth, that's the whole thing. Umi baladoi ein shum Metzias Klam. Were it not for the Keach Azidik, there won't be Metzias Klam. If you think of the stone, right? Or even an aeroplane. Mitamol, metal flies. You have an aeroplane made of metal. Or aluminium, some type of metal. No, I'm not sure. Now they make it, what exactly they make the airplanes out of. But whatever it is, it's a mass. It's an almost an inanimate object, right? It's not a bird. It has wings, but it's not a bird. So how's it flying? Is it flying because of the fuel, the energy, the engine? The engine's making it fly. The fire. Right? So when you look at the plane, you don't think it's not a shinui in the teva. The teva hadvarim, which is now in the air. In Moshel of the stone doesn't become a flying stone. It becomes a thrown stone. you misyach, the movement upwards is misyachis to the koyach and not to the yesh. So kol the phenomenon which you're observing is a phenomenon. So take in athletics, right? So you have various the shot put, right? So you have it's a metal thing. It's not a stone, but it's a metal thing. Someone has to throw, and how far they can throw it, or a javelin, so a stick, throw it, or the discus, right? They're throwing. So these are forms of athletic achievements. You're throwing something. No one is. Who gets the plaudits? It's not that there's better quality stones than this for the particular activity, but the ikka. Who gets the medal? The stone doesn't get the medal. The stone didn't fly there. The person flew over there. It's akol misyachis to the zayrik, not to the nizrak, because it doesn't nishkin. So when you're thinking about yesh, who the pa'ulas hayesh, who's that misyachis to? The pa'ulas hayesh is misyachis to the ayin. Kol metziusi, kol inyonai is the ayin. Because the ayin is mahava yisatomit. Yeah, that's the moshel from Zirkas Evan. Yishleimet b'zeh inyan habitl amiti b'yesh me'ayin yosim be'ila v'olu. Masha kol metziusi be'emes u'ayin. Like when it comes to the ila v'olu, you say kol in, because you might say kol in olu is the ila. We were trying to pull this up, right? The ila is nichol in the olu. But once you have the olu, once the mitzvah in the talking in the dogma in seichel middays, right? Once the middays are neilud min seichel, it's not the pshat. You look at the middays and you say, I Pasha don't see any emotions here. All I see is intellect. Because if it wouldn't be for the seichel, there would be no middays, right? Don't say that. It becomes a mitzvah b'fnei atzmi. Chotsh is the middays when nickel in the seichel b'fnei behelim. But as soon as the ilah is mahava the olu, and the ilah is mislabish in the olu, but you're not going to say kol inyan olu is the ilah. Masha ein kein yesh. So for sure, it's not saying there's no bittul. There's a yachas. There's a bittul, and ideally the seichel is madrich the middays. There can be this like relationship, but it's not a bittul legamri. And that's what it's saying in the Harav. Yishleimet b'zeh in bittul hamiti b'yesh me'ayin yosim b'lo shekom etziusi be'emes u'ayin. Whereas the olu has a shikol metzius b'fnei atzmi. Once it's neilad, you can say a child like now moshel that we gave a child legabi the parent. It's coming from the, and it's the mock, it's the sibban and everything, the ilah, and it's the same etzem and v'chuli. Aber from this wegen it's a mitzvah nifrad b'fnei atzmi. Ela shehein gvuraisa. And these indeed, this is the gvura, the koich, the ebishter. Shema yoyis kol metzias hayeshu ha'ayin. The reality of every yesh is the ayin which is mahava isay. That's the true metzias. Kol mokum eino mugush. Zeklal b'nivroim. A person is not aware of their own bittul. Adrab kol in hayesh. Is you're not making it. This is the pella which the Eibush does. Chod completely bottle line. There's ain't a nigrish boy. Kim sha nivra magish atzmi the metzias neshnifen mekayde. The whole uftu, the whole chidush is you're creating something which is magish as atzmi as a metzias. And completely different mekayde. Self-sufficient, independent entity. Aval bebechinas chochma. So that's normal. That's how yesh. That's the whole relationship. But when it comes to chochma, musug eich shebe'emes ein zu lasi be'efes beladi. Chochma is different. Chochma taka gets it. It realizes the truth. The am a yesh, but kol metzias hayesh is ein. nirgash. In the Chochma it's nirgash.
How can there be a musak in Chachma? You can even say Bina Sheb Chachma, but it doesn't help.
In the Chochma it's nirgash. Musag lashon nirgash. The zo beginnen ha bittel de kli Chachma geen hui kli la Eirin Seif. Chachma is the emes of kli to Eirin Seif. Eirin Seif is able to be niskali in Chachma more than anywhere else. Why? Because Chachma gets it. It's the perfect yesh. It's what we're all trying to emulate. To be as astot yesh, she ganzen bottle, because with the heart, you have your nigger, you have a gefil, that hu levadi hu ve'in zulasi, efes bilodi be'emes. V'ayin mashkos b'sishim pek lamed hei b'hagod, yishlei ma'kavone kanal. This is the Pshat in Hagoh in Pek Lamed Hei, the famous Hagoh in Pek Lamed Hei, which is what we're all, riffing off over here. This is what it's all about. Mikol ze yuvan eich, the base in Yonim Einam Seisim says this. This is the second answer. This is the answer by Emek Yesa. That these two things, these two concepts that we're describing, are not a stir. That on the one hand, Kliyah Chachma Nisav B'chinesh Me'ayin. On the one hand, B'chinesh Me'ayin Be'in Areich. Umikol Mokim B'chinesh Bittul Mipnei Musuk Shoma Emes Eich She'ein Zulosiv Eves Blodik Klam. So you could say, like the first pshat, that the whole purpose of creation, yesh ma'ayin, is that you should have nivroim, which are taka and metzias, but those metzias should be batul elikus. And that's why it's possible that Chachma has a more of a appreciation of that, and therefore it is more of a keli to Eirin Seif. That's the first pshat. But Imak Yesa is not that the ayin is mahabe ayesh and it's taka ayesh, meaning that it's be'emes nifrat. In truth, kol metzias ayesh is this bottle. All metzias ayesh, not just chachma datzilus. Everyone, until the metzias achi tachting is a yesh, which is the ayin is mahava isutomit. But through ishtalshlus, that's not nirgash. But in reishis or ishtalshlus, in chachma datzilus, it's nirgash the emes. As hulavadi hu vein zulase. Eves bilodi be'emes. Okay? Very geschmacke. Sugrain. Okay, so where does that leave us? So after everything we've just said above, that Chochma Datzilus is a Briyesh Ma'ayin, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it has a greater degree of bittul than all the other Madrigash Matam Yimenu. Yuvan Eich Shebechinas Chochma Eini Be'erech Einsif. So in our Sugrain we've sort of dealt with a side issue, but our key emphasis over here is to point out that Chochma Datzilus, the clear Chochma Datzilus, is Be'ein Areich Einsif. To the Eirin Seif Shifnei Atzilus. Me'achad is hav es achachma hu b'chinas yesh ma'ayin ayidei hefzeka eir. Im kein ein arich klal legabi Eirin Seif Baruch. But that's going to provide us with a problem, right? What's the problem going to be?
Hefzeka eir.
Hefzeka, we're going to explain that in a second. We're going to explain that hefzeka eir in a second. It was mentioned earlier in one of the brackets, which I skipped, but we're going to deal with it here, so it didn't matter. What's still going to be the fundamental problem? If the Kalim of Atzilus are Bein Areich, what's the issue?
How can the Metzias of the Ayin be the Metzias of Yesh then? Surely, if they're Bein Areich, then how can you make a Metzias which is Bein Areich to you? Become.
No, it's B'dech Mamela.
How does it not go into it?
That's the question. How the Eirus of Atzilus able to be mislabish in the Kedim of Atzilus? Because it's Bein Areich, and we're going to deal with that. We will do that, but that should be the question. Because we're establishing as Bein Areich, and with this contrast between the Kelim and the Eir. But here we just said a thing that it has to become. How do you create something yesh ma'ayin?
Well, there's no form.
What do you mean? What happens? Poof. Okay, ayin. Mitzad ha'ayin is it's mufrach legamri. There should be Matthias Hayesh. The Eibishter wants. Shkoyach, the Eibishter wants. It's not shaykh though. Ayin and Yesh have opposites. So what does the Rotten do? Aliyas HaRotten. The Eibishter wants it to be Matthias Hayesh. So what does he do with the ayin? If it comes from may ayin. So what does he do with this ayin? He can't do a shtalshlus. If you have a shtalshlus from the ayin, it's going to be weiter ayin. It's not going to change. It's not going to give up its kashrus and its bittul to elikus. It's not going to become a dove and ifrit. So what do you do? One second. What are you going to do? How are you going to get a yesh out of an ayin? Any suggestions? No? What? Oh, shkoyach. Okay, so thank you. Tzimtzumai. You have to be Tzimtzum. Yeah, I have to. What's the lashon over here? What you just asked the question? Hefzekai. Hefzekai. You have to do something with the ayin that enables it to be able to create yesh. You have to be Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum. Lashon hefzekai. That's what you just said in the sentence, right? It wasn't a secret. Acher kol an al yuven, eich beginnen schachmul ene berge in seif. Me acher shavas a chachmul beginnen is me ayin. Al yedei hefzekai. Im kein ein arich klal gabi in baruch. The tzimtzum makes something ein arich. It enables for there to be this. Tzimtzum is the solution to the problem, because otherwise you're stuck with hishtalshlus. And if you're stuck with hishtalshlus, you're not going to get from ayin to a yesh through hishtalshlus. It's going to be weiter ayin. Now he's going to say Geschmack of beer. Who beer or inyan who? So explain this like this. Let's explain as follows. Tine aramak zichron in levracha. Lo yodam inyan atzimtzum mokim pona anis gebeis chaim. The ramak mishakadover o lifnei Arizal. He didn't know about the tzimtzum. The whole chiddush of tzimtzum and mokim pona is in Kisvei Arizal. Neis chaim. So if you look in the Pardes, it implies that it's all al derech ilval, which is a problem, right? Because the Pardes is, the Ramak is explaining al derech hashittas arakanti, but you can't get to the shittas arakanti, the emes, without tzimtzum. If you want to say Briyash Ma'ayin, if you want to say that the Kalim are Mugda, Be'ein Arich to the Eir and everything, if you want to get there, you can't get there through Ishtalshus L'Maldo. You can only get there through tzimtzum. So what do you do if no one told you about the tzimtzum yet? You don't know about the tzimtzum.
And according to the Marachas, it's a bit easier. But you still got
Why?
Rashi.
The Marachas, it says it's Takish Talshlus.
Does he mention Rashimu? The Marachas?
No, for him it's all Talshlus.
Fine.
Itaka says there's no difference. For him he doesn't need the tzimtzum.
It's one cab.
But for the Rakanti to make sense, you need to have the tzimtzum. So what we can do, got the Ramak. He seems to say it's al derech hashtalshus leval. So we're going to trying to figure this out. I'm going to explain it. Im kol zeh ein rotzim elay mashis havas a kesem ein se baruch hu rak al derech sha'ol me'il shalai. Now, you might say it's ilava olu, but it's definitely not saying it's like all. He's not saying it's the same sort of ilava olu like you'd have on any other ilava olu. If alim ramak zal mavua in yaz ever kamen kemes. Ukamesh kosa rameh zal b'sefer belach harimin Menachem Azar Mipano, in his Pirush on the Pardes, what does he say? Shagimu Pekal, B'Shem Ramaksal, Sefer Alima, the Afal Pisha Einen Aniach, Sheniskari Vakesel Ein Seif. Here we're saying Keser is like the first Darga of Atzilus. Yeah? Because sometimes you name the Keser with the Esses first and sometimes Das. Yeah? So basically, assume that Keser is the first of the Esses first. She'anu Naniach, the Afal Pisha Anu Naniach, Sheniskari Vakesel Ein Seif, Kol Ha'efshe B'chik Ha'olu Liskari V'Lilosei. So that goes back to Eina Seisa, because we're saying that the highest Darga in Atzilus is as close as an Olul can be to an Ilul. Mikol Mokum Yechuyev Hevdel Otzum V'Rav Kamerchok Sheyesh Bein HaOlul Arishain V'Ilah HaKduma Loi Behechlet Ash Yitztak Loima Sherochik Ma Shehoye Bein HaKesel Ein Seif Har B'Yoysim Ma Shehoye Bein Neinu HaNimtzoy Ma Shveilim V'Bein HaKesel Elin HaKonsheni. So the Rameh Bipano is saying this Yosem Shein Areich that Chodged as this is the Reishis Eshtashlos, where he's calling Keser Atzilus, and Keser Lagabi Erin Seif Lifnei Atzilus is closer than other things. There's a certain closeness. So you have all the milas we are two biurim in the Ein Seisa, but there's lashon Yechuyev Hevdel Otzim V'Rav K'Mercha V'Rav. So it's not saying Ilav Olu like every Seichel Midis. Seichel Midis, Ein Seif the Atzilus and Atzilus. No, even in the Ramak, he doesn't know about Tzimtzum, but he's still trying to differentiate in this thing. Haribia Gamkin, the Yosem Mashein Arich Asiya Gashmis the Gabi Keser Atzilus, is hard bein Arich Keser Atzilus Gabi Insif. Imkein Nichera Machidash Arizal Binyat Tzimtzum Mokim Ponidavki. If already in the Ramak you have a method by saying you can make differences between different types of Ilav Olu. You could say there's this type of Ilav Olu, that type of Ilav Olu. The Ilav Olu, if now Atzilus to Atzilus, is a different type of Ilav Olu. So okay, so we already basically have the Tzimtzum. You're basically saying what the Tzimtzum is trying to say. Right? Trying to get to that point of the Ein Arich. So in Cain, what was the whole Chiddush of the Arizal? Trying to say the big Chiddush of the Arizal. The Ramak had, and you know there's in the sort of academic world, when it's talking about the Ramak, I read an article about Tzimtzum in the Ramak, like Tzimtzum Lifnei Arizal. There are different people, different shittas. It's not people have analyzed the Ramak and have identified sort of aspects of the concept of the Tzimtzum already in the Ramak. And here that's like what Rabbi Shab is saying. The Chayra is saying the same thing. Machidush. If already you can have a Hebdel Otzum V'Rav to the point where you can say Yosem Mishen Arich, if you can say Yosem Mishen Arich, then it's not normal Ilava Olu. He calls it Ilava Olu. Fine. But it's not the normal Ilava Olu. If it would be normal Ilava Olu, then for sure Kesed Atzilus would be closer to the Ein Seif Lifnei Atzilus than Asiya Gashmis is to it. So if the Arizal is already, if the Ramak has already done enough of what needs to be done, then go shnekshin. Why do we need? What's the grace of Chiddush of the Arizal? So comes again now. Rabbi Rashab explains as follows: Ache inyan hu, looking Hara 4:16, Sefer Archim, Bekamim and Kemes, will give you a reichkeit in this inyan. Lilu Nishmas Rabbiel, Kilafi Das Ramak, Shlo Yoda Me'at Simsum, Oyesov Shakes and Nimshach Me'en Seif Derech Ilava Olu, Imkin Ein Shayach Kokach Loimar, Tilagabi Ein Seif, Shove Mamish Hakesed Atzilus, Imasi Hagashmis. The Ramak is for sure trying to intimate and suggest that there is merchak rav between Keser Atzilus and the Ma'alim Atzilus. But based on what the part is, the Ramak says, you're not going to be able to make a definitive statement and say that Asiyah Gashmis and Atzilus are b'shove mamish. Because something that is truly bein arich, it's mamish bein arich. There's no erich. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit more, has more of an erich. It has no erich. Everything, as much as you want to fetch in the Ramak, you're not going to be able to get to that point where you're going to say everything. Ultimately, if something's in the olul ha'elyin is more korev than the olul ha'tachton.
Like numbers.
Like it's going to say. The eich efshel lo yimakein. Because how can you say such a thing? That it's b'shove mamish. She'akesu ha'olul ha'rishin u'me'akesu adasi yesh talshus rabbi silav ha'olul. In kain. Nihi she'akesu legabi ein seif ein arich yesu me'erech asiyah legabi akesu. Canal. Okay. You could say that there's a million miles between the Mailam Atzilus and Kesav Atzilus. And you could say there's only 100,000 miles between Kesav Atzilus and Asiyah Gashmis. But based on that, Kesav Atzilus is closer to Atzilus than Asiyah Gashmis. It's not B'Shav and Mamish. One is 100,000 miles closer. Yeah? So that's what comes out from the Ramak. And the truth is not like that. It's not the fact that the Olul Arishin is, or the sort of the Reshis Ashtalshnus is closer, has a Kiruv Yosa, or has an Erech Yosa to the Eirin Seishif Ne'atzilus. Rather, Elash Akesa in Areich. Kol kach, the Gabi ain't safe, Kamei Asiyah Gashmis Mamish Bli Yisn Kla. They have an equal degree of Ein Arichkeit. Because das is the Pshat Ein Arich. And he gives the example that Levi is saying. Kamei Shlagabi Dova Shebli Gvul Ubli Mispa Shava Mamish Echodim Elef Alofim. If something's Taka Bli Gvul Ubli Mispa, then there's no difference between one and elef alaf. Tens and hundreds of thousands. Millions. Because numbers are not shy. It's not. Yeah? Mokum acher. Takin and ches itself. Alien and ches. Muvua. The gamzelu yutstak loima kamoy gvul legabi bligvul. This moshel is not a moshel mechuven of gvul and bligvul. Why? Because when you say bligvul, when can you say bligvul on something? Shaykh leima al dover sheishle is a shaykh is bligvul. Nema olav shu bligvul legabi akbol is. To say something is infinite, it has to have a shaykh of finitude. Because otherwise, why are you saying it? It's like you don't say, I'm not able to touch this chokhmah with my hands. That's mamash beinarich. It's not a physical thing. You don't say this is an untouchable seichel. It's like you wouldn't even say such a thing. The fact that you're saying something's bli gvul is already indicating that it has a shaykhs to gvul.
It's like when I say something's timeless, there is a time which is gvul, and therefore we say timeless, right?
Right. Anything, if you're going to be shayl or something, then you have it's got a shaykhs shlilis. Ukmai hakesa elyin. Shehu bli gvul. B'china seiv kol almim. Yibnei sheish shaykhs la'almim. So when you say seiv kol almim, the Rebbe used to mention this a lot. When the Rebbe is trying to be magde, ma'ale kol almim, seiv kol almim, and atzmus. Usually, a lot of times, like for example in Ranat, in Chotichla, you have the whole mile is in seiv kol almim. That is the bli gvul. Doesn't emphasize so much the daga shlishis and atzmus. It does mention it there, but it's not the emphasis. But oftentimes, the Rebbe wants to bring in the third madringa. Seiv kol almim, chotch seiv kol almim is doch bli gvul and everything, but it's seiv kol almim has a shaykhs to almim. So we're saying over here, kesel bli gvul, b'chinas seiv kol almim, b'nei sheish shaykhs to almim, al koponim, el shu b'chinas bli gvul legabi elamis. It's a relative bligvul. It's not be'etzem. If it was be'etzem bligvul, you wouldn't say it. You have to say something bligvul that's taka bligvul. Because in shaykhus bligvul, in dem bashtetnish is its mile is not emphasized by the fact that it's not a gvul. Avu masha in the beget agbola klal bein shaykhus klal leilemis ugvul ein shaykh lema as a bligvul kanki. That's a sugrain. But it was a useful marshal for the moment. The sugrain makes you realize that even that's it's not perfect. It doesn't work. So we're talking about mamish and inyan hot nishkin shaykhus. There's no erech to you in Eilam Hazeh. Pirush. Sha'anachnu b'nei Eilam Hazeh ein lanu leima sheke erech Eilam Hazeh gashmi legabi Eilam HaYisa elyin sherochik erki me'oid. Shukla u'ka'ayin choshev legabi Eilam HaYisa elyin. Kein rochik erech Eilam HaYisa elyin legabi insif. It's not the pshat that we should be able to say ein lanu leima. We shouldn't be able, in theory, you might think, just like I realized, there's an ein arich between Eilam Hazeh and Eilam Elyonim, that the Eilam Hazeh is klo choshev. Lagabi Eilam Elyonim, so it's the fashteich that the Eilam Elyonim are also a klo choshev lagabi einsef. Ein kein. It's not like this is a useful mashal for me to understand any relationship. I can't derive a relationship between my understanding and my relation to Eilam Elyonim, so I can understand the relation to Eilam Elyonim lagabi. No, ein kein. Elish gabi shneim b'shava ein arich klal. Ein arich lecha b'Eilam Hazeh. The same ein arich lecha in Eilam Elyonim is the same ein arich lecha in Eilam Hazeh. It's taka ein arich. Ein arich klal. B'shava mamish. Kein dimyin ein arich the Eilam HaTachtin gabi Eilam Elyon. It's not like we can create a hierarchy of ein arichkeit, relative ein arichkeit. We're talking about mamish ein arich. The masha Eilam HaTachtin ein arich gabi Eilam Elyon urak mitzat shechoshev u'u'ulam imenu harbe. What's our understanding of the ein arich between our Eilam and the Eilam Elyonim is in stam. It's tach besser, tach edel, bottle, and all these milas. The gamma Eilam shel mailam Eilam HaTachtin mailam imenu mi ila le ilam madrig adam madrig yisod yena har you le maila harbe me naila le gabi ilam atachni acha ilam uklo kein connected u mikol nokin yesh bezeh khluki madriges kein de ilam atachni mamish le ilam shlo maila mimenu. So there is a diversity and there's an evolution of dargas between ilam zelyenim and ilam tachtinim. Chumash lamata yesu yesu klo. The lower you get, the more insignificant it becomes. Mi achish bezeh khluki madriges. The fact that we have these sort of this process of difference and distinction between all the different elements is a lie that it's not inarich. Them came. So what's if so? Hadigabi Eilam HaTachtin yesh eze erech la Eilam Elyon. Ba'atachtin yesh le erech la gabi zeh shel manim menu. Stop if you're already being Messiah everything, then heisach is van erech. Imkin yesh la tachtin gamkin eze erech la Eilam Elyon. Tak is it's a you could say be'ein arich b'loshna b'shem ha'mushul. It's kloch ashiv. It's rochuk ma'oid. Whatever you want to say. But to say it's ein arich be'etzem, can't touch nicht sagen. Weil es mamish k'may echad legabi elef alofim v'ribu revovis. So you might say, okay, what's the difference between one and ribu revovis? Hundreds and thousands and millions and everything. You could say it's a merchak rov. But they're both a mispah. How do you get millions? Millions is derived from the accumulation of ones. So the one and the millions have a shaykhus. One is a tenth of 10. The asa mimea and a 10 is a tenth of 100. Well, maybe 11 and 100 is a tenth of 1,000. So there's an erech. When we talk about ein aroich, what's the pshat? What do we mean? We say you nivrov and ischadesh means it baruch hu ischadesh me'ayin. We're not talking about ilah ba'olam. So in the Ramak, it's not possible. It's not possible to get to this daher, this realization, this understanding of the truth that chachma da'atzilus is be'ein aroich legam l'mayim atzilus. To understand the ein aroichkeit of chachma da'atzilus, Gabla Mailam Atzilus, you need the inyan of Tzimtzum, you need the inyan of Ischatsh Yesh Ma'ayin. V'imkein, Mashi Mein Areich, Ein Zeh Misacha Ein Seif Mu'ula Mehem. It's not Be'ein Areich because Ein Seif is superior to the Kalim of Atzilus. Elam Hipneish Nishavu B'chinas Metzias Yesh, V'ein Seif B'chinas Ein V'efes HaMuchlet. There's a Dove V'epuche. They haven't Gish Gen Sheiches. Ein is Ein and one is Yesh. But yes, in a better einklar. At in a shaykh gam kin loima shu me'ula mehem. Nachshem in a go. Can't say this is the ein is higher than the yesh. The ein is higher than the yesh. That would imply that the ein and the yesh have a shaykhs. They have a completely different order. Come with begashmis for ruchnis. So in a shaykh shal ruchnis me'ula min a gashmis. Gashmias, you know what's better than Gashmias? It's Ruchnias. Actually, Gashmias and Erech Ruchnias, klar, they're two different things. One's not better than the other. One's not superior than the other. They have nothing to do with each other. They're not the same category. Even though you say, like for example, we're going to say Doimim say V'chaim Adabe. Say the Semeach is higher than Doimim. You might say there's a hierarchy of things. But Bechlolis, they're different minim Bechol. Plants are better than stones and minerals. Makesha. To say one's better than the other. Animals are better than plants. So it's not even a gedder. It's not even a gedder to discuss, right? Because they're not even Gashmis Ruchnius. You don't. So al derech zeh, you don't say that ayin is superior than yesh. To say such a thing would imply that they're in a trajectory one after the other. If you improve this enough, it will become like this. It's not the same thing. So k'mei ken klolos ha'elamis l'gavi ein seif. So all the elamis, ad atzilus, kelim atzilus. If you want to compare it to ein seif, is mamish k'mei gashmis gavi ruchnis. The gam ha'olam ha'yisa elyin b'chinas yesh v'nisavim ein tzid baruch hu b'derech briyesh ma'ayin chuli. V'imkein gam ha'olam ha'yisa elyin ein ha'reich klal l'gavi ein seif k'mei ha'olam ha'yisa tachnin shem shofim b'zeh. And that you only get from the Chiddush of the Arizal. You can only produce such a reality, you can only explain such a reality with the help of Tzimtzum. Hefseka Eir. If you're going to go derech ishtalshlus, ilah va'olul, even if you're going to, kvetch the ilah va'olul in the way that Ramemi Pano does, you're still not going to get to where you need to get to. So, umuvan. So from all of this it's understood. Should be possibly ein safe. Because the whole, why is the more of an ein areich of atzilus legabe, or the elamis elyonin legabe, the ein safe lifnei elamis, and then between us and the elamis elyonin? Because the difference between us and the Ilmas Al-Yonim is just that the Ilmas Al-Yonim are Ulam Meshubach Mimenu. Aval Eina B'chinas Ein Arich Legamri Rak Sharocha Gerkem Yoit. Because it's Yosim Misha Ein Arich. Because really the Ein Arich between us and the Ilmas Al-Yonim is not really Ein Arich. It's Terech Ishtalshus Ilam Ha'olu. Aval Elyon Legabi Ein Seif Ein Arich Legamri. So it's not Yosim Misha Ein Arich. It's as if like there's really the pshat of Yosim Misha Ein Arich is not that there's two Ein Arichs, and this is more of an Ein Arich. No. The reason why I'm saying Yos Misha Ein Arich is because the Ein Arich that you're talking about between Ilmes Elyonim and Ilmes Tachtonim is taka not Ein Arich. It's just Rachuk Ma'id. Atzilus Lagabi Ilmes Tachtonim is not Ein Arich. Why is it not Ein Arich? Because it's Tashlis. Ilmes. You can't, it's not Ein Arich. In the true sense. It's more Ma'ullah, it's more Meshubach Mimenu. But the difference between Atzilus and L'mayla Me Atzilus is a difference of Taka Ein Arich. So don't misunderstand the terminology Yosem Misha Ein Arich as if we're comparing two things that are Ein Arich, and we're saying that you can have more Ein Arich or less Ein Arich. Ein Arich is absolute. It's either Ein Arich or it's not Ein Arich. So the statement of Yosem Misha Ein Arich is actually saying that the first type of Ein Arich you're talking about is not really Ein Arich. That's why it's Yosem Misha Ein Arich. Because the first Ein Arich is not really Ein Arich. Verstehst? And this you can't even fathom or imagine, except Rak al Yidei Atzimtzum Shekosav Arizal Shubachinas Hefzaka Eila Gamri. Only through Hefzaka Eila Gamri is it possible to get from a state of Ayin to a state of Yesh. Because Kol Zman there isn't Hefzaka Eil, the Ayin will dominate and everything will be bottle. There'll be no Yesh. To create the Yesh, you have to have Hefzaka Eila Gamri Tzimtzum, which we're not being married about here at this moment. Imkein is Abbas Eilim is Mein Soiv, Eine Bederech Ilava Olul, Kim Bederech B'Yish Ma'ayin, Ulazois, Ein Arich Klal, Mikol Zeh Muvon, Eich Shekli HaChachma, Ein Arich Klal, Lagabi Ein Sei Baruch Hu. End of hagaha ches, and we're going to do hagaha tes, hagaha tes, and now we're going to do Yud and Yud Aleph, just to finish. V'lochein, hamshachas ha'oirin Sei Baruch Hu b'chachma. The lachein is not from the mind of the Rebbe, yeah? Now we're into Lochein. The Hamshacha be'ein seif Baruch Hu b'chachma, Tainu Gilu Eir HaKav Shemislavish b'chachma. Which is our question. How on earth you take get his lapshus of the Ha'arim Eirin Seif, the Eiris of Atzilus, to be mislabish in the Kalim of Atzilus, which are be'ein Areich, he bechinas am v'sanusi yisbarich. This is take the humility of the Eibishter. Shu yirida gedoyle von Yisbarich. Is an embassy yirida for the Eibishter. It's a big deal. The beginnes Atzilus v'amshachas ha'eris is abish bekelim who beginnes yirida v'ashbal. And that's going to be what we're going to explain now. How on earth the eris are able to be mislabish in the kelim. Good? Okay, let's stop there.